I'm a bulldog.
Hello, DawgNation, and welcome into Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. I'm Kaylee Mansell with DawgNation recruiting insider Jeff Sentell, and it's really cool that we get to have these moments that come full circle from guys we have talked about in the past, specifically for Dwight Phillips Jr., a.k.a. Peanut. It was like Mike Bobo said, hey, take 5, and Peanut heard change lives. 1 carry, 1 touchdown, did the dang thing.
I mean, his touchdown percentage is going to be hard to top there, Kaylee.
Yeah.
Mom was an 8-time All-American in college, track, Kentucky. Dad was a gold medalist, world champion in the long jump. And I'll always remember Dwight, not just because of his 10.24 he ran his junior year, which is so fast, Kaylee. Like, really the only people that are anywhere near that fast on the Georgia team right now are probably just Arian Smith. And then his dad, who helped train him, told me once, Dwight went to Georgia and ran a laser 40 for Georgia and Dell McGee. And he said he ran a 4.28. And he's like, Jeff, it was the sloppiest, most biomechanically awful. I was like, he went on for about a minute about all the things Dwight did wrong with his form and his weight transfer. And I'm like, hold up a second. You realize you just poked about 6 holes in a 4.28 laser time on the 40. And that's how fast the company Peanut travels in.
I also think that one of the most exciting parts about it, and our very own Cody Chafin's made a video about this, is how excited everyone genuinely was for him. This is someone that didn't early enroll. He wanted to run track, so he waited. He's had a less amount of time with the team, but I mean, it's so evident. I mean, look at that right there. Jared Wilson lifting him up. These guys were so excited for him, and if you're DawgNation, you can't help but be just as excited.
Because everybody wanted the opportunity, and there's another guy that everybody can't wait to see succeed at any point, Cash Jones. But Dwight's kind of like, I don't know, in our own little DawgNation family, Kaylee, it's kind of like us when we saw you kind of flapping your wings a little bit. You start hosting shows. I mean, you were such a great person for us behind the scenes, just waiting your turn. And then when you have some success and we get to see you shine, everybody is just so thrilled for you.
Oh, Jeff, that was really heartfelt. Next thing you know, you guys are going to start calling me Peanut.
Peanut Mansell. No, you're Minion Mansell, remember?
Yeah, we'll revisit that one. All right, DawgNation, here's what we've got going on today's episode of Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger, supersized Before the Hedges, if you will. We've got 2 DawgNation conversations, one with the 5-star tight end, Elyiss Williams. We'll also revisit him later. Y'all are going to be amazed by how just sheerly big this man is. And then we've got another one with the latest Georgia commit, Rasean Dinkins, as well as UJ picked up a 2026 wide receiver. And even though we put a lot of focus on the 2025 guys, we're about to turn the page here soon. So going to get ahead on the 2026s. Then our very own Jeff Sentell, I mean, just working overtime all the time. Never stops. Got to give him the credit. He's been on the road, talking to recruits, talking to coaches. We're going to catch up with Jeff and find out everything that he's learned while he's been on the road for the last 2 weeks. But let's start with this. Let's visit with Elyiss Williams, the 5-star tight end, who we get a chance to see his highlights just about every week and Mansell's details. But we want to let you guys hear firsthand what he had to say to Jeff Sentell. This is a DawgNation conversation with tight end Elyiss Williams.
You got a message for all these Georgia fans that can't wait to see Elyiss? He's going to enroll early, right?
Yes, in December. Yep.
What are they going to get in Elyiss Williams?
You're getting the best player in the country. I know there's some other players out there, quarterbacks and all that. I'm telling you right now, you're getting the best player in the country. You're getting your next first-round tight end, draft pick tight end.
Elyiss, you said we're not done yet. Who do you want to add to the class? Who do you want them to add?
I'm trying to go CJ, Justice, almost all the people in Georgia. We're trying to get them. They all stay home.
What keeps you? I know you shut it down, but I'm sure you hear calls or get texts from other schools. What keeps you solid with the Dogs, man?
I just say my relationship with Coach Hartley and Coach Smart.
So going back on this, man, you could be an ex-receiver, man. Is it the dream tight end? Is it whatever helps Georgia as it get to the league? I mean, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the league, help my family, but I play tight end, receiver, split out wide, attach, anything.
What do you play for? What's your why, man? Why do you do this? Football's hard. It's a game of violence. What do you do this for? What's your why?
My why is my family. I just want to provide for them and make sure my kids have wealth and for their kids to be rich. That's all I see. What national wealth?
Elyiss, for you, looking back on your recruitment, was it always going to be Georgia? Was there ever a point where another team took the lead? Or walk us through like the 4 quarters of your recruitment.
I feel like it's always been Georgia, hometown team, and I feel like it's always been Georgia. I grew up a Georgia fan too, so that made a major part too.
Why is Hartley so good at what he does?
Hey, he's a good recruiter, that's all I got to say.
Are you tight with anybody in the class? Like, who are you boys with right now?
Isaiah Gibson, me and Ethan, we're a little duo, you know what I'm saying? And when we go out there, we just kick it and have fun.
Elyiss, do you have a message for all these Dawg fans that are rooting for you? Can't wait to see you in Athens. What's your message to all the Georgia fans out there?
I'm just ready to work.
One of the things I'm glad that you brought up in this interview, you asked him about Todd Hartley, and it's no secret to anyone anymore that he is a mastermind when it comes to recruiting tight ends, and specifically different types of tight ends who have different strengths from one another. What's Elyiss Williams' strength on the football field? What separates him from maybe an Ethan Barbour or a Jaden Riddell?
Well, first of all, he's just a freak. He's just a first round, go ahead and put him in there. And, Kaylee, I'm glad you asked that question because there's a lot of discussion right now. Look at him. At Camden, he plays a lot of X receiver. He doesn't play tight end. It's funny, his first 3 years of high school, 2 of those at Charlton County, he played a lot of wing T, simplistic run first offenses. And I believe he had like 33, 35 catches coming into this year. Mm-hmm. He's got like 42 now. He's already eclipsed it. But the thinking is, and Kaylee, he's about 6'7", 240 right now, and people say, well, whatever happens with C.J. Wiley, Georgia, Ra Thomas is not in the program, Colby Young is not in the program. There's a deficit right now for X receivers in the program, and he lines up at X a lot for Camden. And the thought you see him attached here, but why not just make him an X receiver? And I don't think Todd Hartley will ever let that happen because he's going to go scratching and clawing, using up all the capital he's got inside the coaching staff to make sure Elyiss stays a tight end. But you can flex him out. Bobo could probably flex him out and get interesting with it. But for him, a lot of people think, okay, he's an X receiver because he's not physical. Well, look at that, Kaylee. He actually drew a flag on that play because they called it holding, but I was like, what, because you just pile drive your guy in the ground, that's how you get a flag? Elyiss said he's willing to do whatever, get on the field, help the team. That's that kind of rah-rah team first mantra he has. He wants to help Georgia. But for those of folks that just say, hey, not really wants to mess around with a lot of linebackers and defensive ends right now, I would encourage them to look back to his junior tape. He was in the wing T offense, Kaylee, and he did a whole lot of blocking. He did a whole lot of dealing with defensive ends and linebackers at that time. So he's physical enough, and Kaylee, I cannot imagine what happens when the House of Payne and Scott Sinclair chisels him up, changes the weight around, and makes him about 6'7", 260. Not going to be Darnell Washington. It's kind of like a combination between Darnell's frame, but then putting maybe a Lawson Lucky type game on top of that body. Because not only this, he's big, he's about a 4'6" guy. Kaylee, he's a 3-time All-State basketball player. So when you stir all that up in the gumbo, the height, the work ethic, the talent, the basketball skills right there, you really have everything you need.
So how does he fit in with this team immediately? Georgia's already got a stacked tight end room, especially now with Lawson Lucky really emerging, as well as we'll see more of Jaden Riddell next year. Not sure what's going to happen with Oscar Delp, but could Elyiss Williams find his way to some meaningful snaps?
I think you better, Kaylee. I think you're going to get 3 years with Elyiss, whether he's using one of them on a red shirt or have him watching a lot of stuff. And I think you find a way. I mean, Kaylee, for a long time now, I've looked at Elyiss, maybe even over a year now, since he's been committed, and I've said this guy will be one of the most impactful players on Georgia's class of 2025. Put him right up there with Talon Taylor, not only because they're 5 stars, but Kaylee, the guy will always be open. I mean, you can guard him, you can put a safety on him, you can put your best safety on him, but you know what? he's going to be open at 10 feet 4 inches, 10 feet 5 inches in the air. We saw that fade ball earlier. Georgia fans, you know, they're a little uneasy now because they can't look to the tight end position and say, oh, Georgia's got a matchup nightmare this year. It feels a little different. Well, that matchup nightmare will return next year, and he'll join Barbour and probably Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky, Jaden Riddell, Colton Heinrich. You know, Jurasik will move on to the NFL, but I mean, goodness gracious, talk about just a stack of riches there for Todd Hartley.
Well, speaking of a stack of riches, we've got DawgNation conversations on both sides of the ball today. Just saw Elyiss Williams, but in just a minute, we're going to take a look at Rasean Dinkins, Georgia's newest safety. But first, we want to remind you that here on Before the Hedges, we are brought to you by Kroger. You're getting to that point in the year where there's all these big family holiday events coming up, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. And if you're hosting, you've got to get all those things for Thanksgiving, your ham, your turkey, all the important sides. Look no further than to Kroger to make sure you get all of your holiday needs for when you're hosting all of these events coming up. Kroger makes it easier on you. You can visit your local Kroger, or you can even have it delivered. So check out Kroger.com or visit your local Kroger to get all of your Thanksgiving needs. So one thing I think that Georgia football is really, really good about is when they know that there's going to be some bad news, they're really good at masking it behind some even better news that maybe comes out like right after. And I think that's exactly what happened with Rasean Dinkins. Not just any commitment, but a flip from Georgia Tech, which makes the recruiting battle feel a little bit more sweet. We want to give you guys the chance to get to know Georgia's newest commit a little bit better. So here is safety Rasean Dinkins.
Why do you play this game? Like, what's your reason for playing football?
Really, I just like to compete. Love the game because it was always passed down in the family. Like, it's a family thing. Everybody played, so I was just following the trend.
Everybody played?
Yeah, I turned out to love it.
How many older members of your family, older males in your family play football?
I say about 20 plus.
How many play college football?
Not many, like 5, 7.
Any D1 football?
I can't remember any D1s.
So you might be the first D1. What does that mean to you, man?
That means a lot. I mean, carrying on the culture and actually being the best to ever do it in my family, I mean, it's a big thing.
If I watch your tape, watch your film, your best stuff, what do you hope people see out of your game? Like, what do you hope it's like crystal clear about the way you play?
A lot of things I do, I mean, a lot of other players can't do. There's some that can do it, but I'm saying, like, I feel like I'm the best to do it, and I'm always hustle on the field. I make plays a lot, and also after the plays, you see me coaching up my teammates to make sure they're up to the par.
Tell me about the best play on your tape. What do you think is the best play you've made?
Best play, I say, is one of the blitzes we ran against Northside. Corner blitzed in, and I had to go out and replace him. So I replaced him, made an interception, diving interception.
How would you describe the way you play? What kind of safety are you? You know, like there's a coverage, there's ball hawk, there's a hit stick guy. How do you play?
I'm pretty balanced. Like, I'll come down and make plays in the box, also cover. So I feel like it's pretty balanced.
How big are you?
5'11", 190.
190. Obviously, you visited Georgia recently.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what sort of dent that made. What were your thoughts on that trip?
It most definitely raised the bar for a lot of colleges. Like, the coaching staff and the players bond in. Also, their walkthrough, they say that hay is never in the barn. So that means stuff is never in place. We always corrected something. So that was a really big thing to me.
You liked hearing that, right?
Yes, sir.
Doesn't it speak to the type of player you are?
Yes, sir.
Always something to correct, always a way to get better?
Always.
Does it feel like they're making you a priority now? Does it feel like they want you?
Yes, sir.
Why do you say that? You said that very definitively.
I feel like they
it's like you read a key.
They connect with me about it every week. Like, they make sure I'm all right. Also, just checking up on me and the fam, making sure we're straight.
Who's recruiting you for the staff? Is it T-Rob?
T-Rob and Coach Deribe.
What's the message from those guys?
Really, they just always tell me how much of a dog I am and how I need to be a part of the family.
What does Isaiah tell you about that? What does he tell you? Is he soft-spoken or is he hitting the whole hard on that?
He's kind of soft-spoken, but he just want to see me wherever I'm successful at. But Georgia's most definitely coming the hardest.
Was that a school you wanted to? Everybody grows up in the state. They call it a dream offer, a dream school. What was that like for you?
It was a very big offer to me. Like, it really amazed me.
What's your dream? You got a dream?
It's ultimately to go to the NFL, but also to have a backup plan after I leave the NFL.
When Georgia offered you, what was that moment like?
It was a very big moment, a lot of excitement in the room. I was also in the room with Coach Hudson. He's the defense coordinator here, and we have a very close bond. So I was in there with him, and Coach T. Rob called, told me I had the offer. It was just a lot of excitement in the room.
Did you sit on it for a while, or how long did you have that offer before you let the world know?
I think I posted it right after I got it.
Right after you got it. Why'd you want to post it immediately?
It was a very big one. I knew it would bring a lot of excitement to my fam and also the fans, the people that look up to me.
So I saw you last year. All my coaches in my circle here, they told me about you last year. You were starting to blow up statewide. And they said, I saw your film last year, and I'm like, the thing that went through my head is I'm trying to figure out, you play a lot like Javon Bullard.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm talking about like that?
Yes, sir.
Middle Georgia type guy too. I mean, do you see that? I mean, how do you take that if the comparisons to Javon Bullard? I know you want to be your own guy, but still.
Yeah, I try to manage it and like look at the things that he do, kind of make it better on my side of the ball.
Ultimately, what do you think you're looking for?
Really, I like what Georgia's doing. So looking into Georgia, trying to find things that I didn't find in Tech.
What does Georgia tell you they want you? Like when they tell you they like about your game, what does T-Rob say? What does Deribe say?
They really just talk about how much of a better tackler I am than other guys, and ball skills are also elite. So really, they just like those things, and they always tell me about it. And some of the film that they watch, they send me corrections, and I watch the corrections and fix it.
How happy you think you would make Isaiah if you chose Georgia? How happy would he be?
I mean, we played together since we were 7 years old, so I feel like that would be a big accomplishment.
Can you describe your relationship with him?
We were 7 years old. We played against each other in rec center, and then after that, we were never rec guys again. We went to the All-Star, and we played on the same team together since we were 7. My dad coached us all the way to we were 12 years old. So yeah, really been like very close since we were 8 years old.
Awesome. Rasean Dinkins. You got a nickname? What do your boys call you?
Duke, Dink.
They call you what?
Duke or Dink.
Duke or Dean, right?
Dink.
Dink.
Yes,
like
sir.
Dink and dunk, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Rasean Dinkins, man, appreciate your time. You definitely did not dink around that football field. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
So, for some clarification, at the time this was filmed, he had not yet committed to the G. But more importantly, I wish that y'all could have seen our faces as we're watching the highlights play along this video, because a lot of the times, and I'm not saying any of the recruits that you interview, but you hear guys talk about how good their game is, how good their game is, how good they do this, how good they do that. But then when you've got the film to back it up and show it, I love the confidence that he has in himself. He's got Georgia written all over him. So,
I mean, Kaylee, I'm going to tell you this kid, and I remember we did Halloween trick or treat, folks. We told you that Rasean Dinkins was going to be a treat, and it was like, I talked to him, I think this was right after the Texas game, and obviously I wanted you to just kind of see how his mind works, see how intelligent he is, see how he communicates. Everybody makes predictions. I dropped a Javon Bullard prediction right in the middle of that. I think he can at least be that for Georgia. He's such a savvy football player. And we all know how Kirby likes to yell, right? Right, Kaylee? This kid, this kid's like, I'm going to make all the people the sound guys, the producers in the world happy right here. You tell him to do one thing. You tell him, like, this is the way I want you to hold the microphone in an interview. And by gosh, that thing stays right there. You just only have to tell him once. And here's my prediction. My prediction is I don't think Kirby Smart will lose his top yelling at Rasean Dinkins more than like 3 or 4 times this season. I know, we all know Kirby's crazy. He is so structured and he expects the very best, but I think Rasean's a guy that delivered it. You should have seen the scene, because normally, you know, Kaylee is a master host now, and she's sitting here looking at her notes. She's preparing for segments coming up, and I was like, hold on, Kaylee, you need to watch this. And we got like jaw-dropping stuff going on right now, and she's like, OMG, if she could have her own meme, that would what it would be. And the funny thing is, you saw all those great plays. You saw a hit stick play, you saw him catch the post, You saw him one-handed interception. You saw another diving interception. Kaylee, ma'am, those were the first 4 plays on his tape. We didn't have to go Indiana Jones and look for everything. That's how good Rasean Dinkins already is now, and he is going to be one terrific Georgia Bulldog.
Yeah, this is where I think things get interesting because Georgia loses Dan Jackson and Malachi Starks, which leaves you with KJ, Corey Thomas, Jake Pope. Rasean is the only safety commit in this entire class. Is this someone who could truly get playing time just because there's really not much depth at that position when you take away those 2 players?
Yeah, I think what you'll see with Rasean is he will elevate maybe into a KJ Bolden type comfort role really quick. And he's Isaiah Gibson's best friend. And I'm going to tell you, this is the stuff that you need to know. This is the stuff you turn to Before the Hedges for. His defensive coordinator basically trusts him to call the plays. He can set the front, he can set the backers, and he can set the coverage. Even LeBrandon Hudson, longtime friend of mine, good coach at Warner Robins, he even lets him, trusts him, gives him the keys to say, okay, on this play, Rasean, I'm going to let you decide, do we apply pressure here or do we apply coverage here? And it is your call. And I said, LeBrandon, I said, Hud, how often does he get that right? And he's like, he gets it right almost every time because that's how well of a football IQ he is. And I mean, listen, Dogs, I know you guys get excited about the 5 stars. I know you love them. You want to have that bragging right amongst your rival fan bases or whatever. This guy right here, you will know his name and you will want to buy his jersey for yourself or for your kid or for your significant other because he is a bona fide ball player.
So here in just a little bit, we're going to debut On the Road. But DawgNation, we want to remind you that even when you're on the road, you can still listen to Before the Hedges and all other DawgNation shows on our DawgNation podcast feed, whether that's Spotify, Apple, no matter how you listen, you can always listen to Before the Hedges, On the Beat, DawgNation at large with you on the road. So make sure to check out our DawgNation podcast feed. Well, Georgia picked up another recruit, and one in the class of 2026. We're getting to that point where we're going to be becoming more familiar with those guys in the 2026 class. Never too early to get ahead of the curve. And this one comes from 4-star wide receiver Vance Spafford out of Mission Viejo, California. I mean, Cali kid to Athens, that is a massive difference. What was it about Athens and the University of Georgia program that was so compelling to him?
Significant addition here, Kaylee. The DawgNation is getting a little spoiled where they can add a top 75 overall wide receiver in the 2026 class. You know how long Dog fans have been stumbling out in the desert like Moses trying to find 40 years of out in the wilderness looking for a top 75 overall recruit. Kaylee, he is a sophomore, and he is sophomore year and junior year, this last 2 seasons. Kaylee, he's caught 40 touchdowns. That's a lot. And he plays in one of the better leagues in California. They're involved in the playoffs right now. But Spafford, 5'11", 175. Coley went after him. Coley got him. He wanted to leave the state of California. He wanted to play in the SEC. Kaylee Mansell, he's like most of us. He took one trip to Athens. One trip to Athens, and he's like, yeah, this is where I want to go to school. This is where I want to go play ball. Vance Spafford, and I'm going to save the very best for last. He ran an electronic 4.35 in the 40. See that green jersey on him right now? He was there among the 50 best rising junior skill players. I went and saw him down at IMG Academy this summer. And out of all those guys, he won the fastest man competition, really turned a lot of heads because obviously nobody expects, in his own words, a skinny white kid to run like that. Vance Spafford, 4.35, and again, Arian Smith, Peanut, those are the only guys that are running that fast at the University of Georgia right now. I
mean, speed really does kill, and you mentioned he goes to Mission Viejo, which is a very strong program and a very strong football state, and he smashed all of their single-season receiving records as a sophomore. I think that says a lot.
Let's do this. Let's play interactive DawgNation right here. I'm going to give you an A and a B, and everybody in the comments. And Kaylee, you can judge it, join in here too.
Okay.
I want you to decide which one of these 2 data points is cooler. Here's A. Vance Spafford plays on a team with 5-star senior cornerback Dijon Lee, who's committed to Alabama. Dijon's about 6'3", about 190. Dijon, like everybody else in California, cannot absolutely cover him at all. Spafford, for years and years and years, just rips through him because he's got a lot of game, he's got a lot of route tree. That's option A. So he cooks a 5-star corner going to Alabama on the regular in practice. Option A. Option B, behind door number 2, you've got Spafford, loves playing special teams. He thinks, he said, you know what, man, I'm trying to sound humble here. Like, I can catch a lot of touchdowns. To me, the greater impact you can make on a game is blocking punts. Kaylee, when he started shooting out his early junior film and early junior tape, he dropped his stats. It was the catches, it was the yards, it was the touchdowns. He also said 2 block punts. Now, folks, if there is never, ever a tailor-made prototype Kirby Smart wide receiver recruit, he runs a 4.35 and loves blocking punts on defense, we'll never find one. There, those are your options. Door number 1, door number 2. Kaylee, what say you about which one you think is more impressive to you?
Door number 1.
Oh, there you go. Alabama killer, right?
Yeah, 100%, especially because those two could continue to go head-to-head just in 2 different uniforms.
Spafford even told me, he's like, man, I've ran routes against him probably 1,000 times. I can't show him anything else. He's shown me everything he's got. I've shown him everything I've got. And, folks, 2026, big deal there in Vance Spafford.
So Vance Spafford goes from Cali to Athens, long road trip. He's not the only one that's doing long road trips around here. I'm so serious when I tell y'all that. Jeff, always on the road. Every time we speak on the phone, I feel like he's in a different place. Morning call, he's somewhere else. So let's catch up on all things that Jeff Sentell has been doing here on Before the Hedges. This is On the Road.
Just try. Just try. Don't look back. Just try.
Never disappoint.
Yeah, real quick before we get started, what do you listen to when you're on the road? What's your medium? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you prefer music? Are you an audiobook person? None of these things would surprise me.
Yeah, I go through all of them. It's kind of like when we're out with friends and we're at dinner or something. Like, I go through a lot of options. I hit podcasts right now. I'm listening to something called Why We Love Football, and it's great stories from great football players. But then when I get a lull, I'll put it on a playlist, Apple playlist, or playlist on Apple. And then, it's kind of what I do. And then also I have to make sure I listen to At Large, DawgNation At Large. I have to listen to DawgNation Daily, and I also have to listen to On the Beak with Mike and Cody as well. So it's a lot of miles. Like, sometimes, I love driving my car, but I can't drive my car on all these road trips. Otherwise, I'd have gazillion miles. So sometimes you just got to rent one.
Understood. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's catch up with Chase Linton, who's been in that top 5 on our Before the Hedges top targets for so long. Former Rutgers commit, the 4-star edge, is now going to make a decision November 20th. It's going to come down to Georgia, Georgia Tech, Illinois, and Rutgers. First, I think it's rare that we've seen a commitment or a potential commitment with those schools as their top 4. But your Sentell's Intel crystal ball, what's it telling you?
Yeah, crystal balls are what they are. Maybe I can say roadmap and be really cool to this segment here right now. One of these schools is not like the others, Kaylee. I might say couple of weeks. Chase has told me he wanted to get this thing done before December. I think it's actually taking a little bit longer. He did have Florida State in his mix and then LSU in his mix. It looks like he's cut that thing down. So in like 2 weeks, and this is an edge defender. I don't look for Chase Linton to play quickly at Georgia, but he's got that length kind of like, now he's not Adam Anderson, but he's got that length and speed that the Dogs really like there, and he probably would make an impact on special teams first, should the Dogs win out there right there. But it was big for him setting his announcement for November the 20th.
Yeah, that was something that we were unsure about, so now we know November 20th. We'll get back to you when we know more details, you best believe. Some good news, some surprisingly good news. The 4-star wide receiver commit, Thomas Blackshear, a few weeks back put out a statement on social media that he would be reopening his recruitment, still committed, but reopening it. Now, we have learned, because Jeff's been on the road, that that is not the case anymore. He is fully committed to the Dogs. Why close it back?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, Kaylee. It's funny. I used to work in Savannah maybe 20 years ago as a Cub reporter. And I remember going out to practices, and Blackshear will be probably a conversation next week, because I got a chance to talk to him and his head coach Mark Stroud. But the things are still there, Kaylee. You would think in 24 years they could come up with something besides Avon Skin So Soft to get rid of sand gnats. I'm actually scratching my forearm right now because when I was talking to Blackshear, sand gnats were all over us. But he said, yeah, about that reopening my commitment stuff. He says, yeah, let's just close that door back down. We wrote on DawgNation.com, I believe on Tuesday night. Had some quotes there from Blackshear about, hey, just looking around, he wanted to see what else was out there. South Carolina, Florida State came knocking on his door. That didn't take him that far. 6'1", 195. He said James Coley uses the George Pickens comparison to his game. I really like Dylan Bell as a really really timely compliment to his game. Kaylee, he makes a lot of plays. He's got plays upon plays. And the thing about him is when the ball's in his hand, he's special. He also has really great acceleration, and what you're looking for, Kaylee, that makes him special is he can make his cuts without slowing down or losing any speed. And Kaylee, he has basically shut the door, closed his recruitment. He will be a dog. One thing about this story, you will not see him in January. He doesn't have the necessary coursework to graduate early. So he is going to graduate in May and report to Georgia in May-ish, June.
I think it's no secret that whenever he put this statement out on social media that Georgia fans were shocked and a little upset. Is this something that DawgNation can get past?
Yeah, I think so. Especially when the first time he catches a touchdown on somebody, people won't even remember that he reopened his recruitment. But the one thing he said is kind of funny. Guys, you got to watch those comments because everybody's watching, families are watching, players are impacted by it, even if they don't clap back. But he's like, man, when I did that reopening my recruitment tweet, he's like, I read the comments. He's like, man, it was bad, but he just wanted to let DawgNation know it's all good. He's going to be a dog. He thinks Georgia boys should stay home. And very quietly, Kaylee, very quietly, the 912 Coastal Empire, shout out to you guys out there. They might have 4 or 5 dogs in this class. And that's something we don't really see when you count Williams, you count Elijah Griffin, you count Thomas Blackshear, maybe 1 or 2 more as well. I mean, all of a sudden, Savannah went years and years without putting any dogs in this class. And they might even put a 6-pack in this class.
912, sneaky good.
Yeah.
Sneaky good. So our next 3 topics all involve flips.
Flips.
Yeah, flips. It's getting to that time where there's only a few guys in the class that haven't been committed somewhere else prior, so don't be surprised if you see a couple in the future. But let's start with the 4-star defensive lineman, Kevin Wynn, currently a Florida State commit, and it's crazy that when I say Florida State commit, everybody kind of understands now why he potentially would flip.
Yeah.
Georgia's been going after defensive linemen heavily over the last 2 months. It's a topic that we covered. It was our Indiana Jones hunt. They were going after defensive linemen, and I'm wondering, could this finally be the one that they get?
Kelly, I think this is a guy that DawgNation needs to put their binoculars on, pay really attention to Kevin Wynn. There was some noise there about USC. Remember, Kevin Wynn is the guy that wants to own his own restaurant one day. Kaylee, when you watch the senior film so far for Kevin Wynn, it looks like mass destruction. I mean, it looks like a apocalyptic guy that can get in the backfield. Kaylee, he is so strong. I think he has strength totals that I think a Georgia Bulldog freshman or sophomore defensive lineman would be proud of right now. I believe 500 plus on the bench, just crazy stuff like that. I'd watch this one. You know, Kirby went and saw him in the Kirby Copter during the bye week. This feels like Georgia is now right in the midst of this recruitment.
I think another one I'm curious about is the 4-star safety Lagonza Hayward, currently a Tennessee commit. It's no secret that Georgia probably needs some more safeties, but is it one of those scenarios where maybe just Georgia came at him a little bit too late? Yeah.
Kaylee, a lot of folks are speculating that Lagonza Hayward might be one of those great flip targets. You know, he was supposed to be in Jacksonville as a guest for the Georgia-Florida game. Did not make it. He played in the region championship game against Savannah Christian. Elijah Griffin got the win there. Savannah Christian Red Raiders, first one in like 4 or 5 years. But Lagonza didn't make the trip because he woke up kind of mad. He's like, we just lost. I hate to lose. Now, here's the good news. Well, maybe not so good news unless you're a Tennessee fan. I spoke to him. I spoke to his coach. Lagonza seems still very entrenched with Tennessee. And like you said, Lagonza has so many trips to Georgia where he left disappointed, where he was hoping for an offer, would love to have had an offer junior day. I think you can chalk this up to the transition between Fran Brown and Dante Williams, and then Will Muschamp and T. Rob Travaris Robinson. But Georgia was like off, on, lukewarm, off, and then really scalding hot. And he's just recognizing that Tennessee has been consistent with him for the longest. He wants to value the loyalty right now. He knows it's really just going to be Georgia, Tennessee, with Georgia there just a little bit. He gave me the 100% committed to Tennessee line there because let's best believe, Kaylee, when he woke up Saturday morning and all the internet and all the interwebs and all the social media said he was going to be a guest of Georgia for the Jacksonville cocktail party, Georgia-Florida game. Tennessee coaches got on the horn. They started blowing him up, even though he was on Do Not Disturb. He told the Tennessee coaches, I'm good. Now, even though he took the visit to Georgia, I believe for the Auburn game or the Mississippi State game, he let Tennessee know beforehand what he was doing. And that's the type of loyalty he feels towards the Vols. At this point, I know Georgia's going to put a mad dash on him. They're going to try to love on him as much as they can. But I think he's going to stick with Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can both respect, especially in this new age of college football, is loyalty, and not just from recruits, but from the schools that they're committed to as well. So no harm, no foul. Last one, new name who's also going to pop up on our just off the list this week, and that's going to be Tavion Wallace, the 4-star linebacker who is an Arkansas commit. And no, it's okay. That doesn't make me feel personal feelings towards it because it's a Sam Pittman guy. But I think my thing is there's 2 linebackers in this class already. There's a lot of linebackers in the program in general. Do you think that's maybe something that scares him away, or he embraces that aspect of competition?
Well, first of all, committed to Arkansas, and Arkansas has had its moments where it looked like Sam's feet were kind of set in stone there, and I was all happy to see it. And then they've had some moments where you wonder about long-term future for Sam Pittman and his staff. You know, Travis Williams, T. Will, the great coordinator, position coach, was at Auburn for a lot of years, played at Auburn. He really recruited Tavion well. We know Georgia's going to lose Shmuel Munden. This will be his last year in Athens. Just need that guy to get healthy. Can't wait to see him get healthy. But I think the main thing, Tavion Wallace, Georgia's got 2. They're also going after Christian Gass, another Tennessee commitment there. But I think Georgia would like to take 3, especially the right 3. But, Tavion's got a 22, 21 mile per hour GPS. This is the thing I want you to pay close attention to. There's something there with Georgia and Tavion Wallace. That's what it feels like. He can look and see how much Chris Cole's playing, where, Georgia's got a lot of 5-star linebackers, a lot of really good dudes, but the right guy that works his way up the depth chart, works his way up the food chain, will get run as a freshman in Athens, and maybe he's not scared of competition. His older brother played at Kentucky. He understands the game and the gauntlet of SEC football. That's one of those I think DawgNation should put a pin in and say, maybe wait and see what marinates over the last 4 or 5 weeks of the recruiting cycle.
All right. First full week in November. That means it's time for something we only do once a month, and it is our Dog of the Month. And we're going to get there in just a minute, but first we've got some other highlights for you. This is Mansell's Details. First guy we had a DawgNation conversation with him earlier. It was the 5-star tight end, Elyiss Williams, who had 3 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown in a win over Tift County. Also, I get the chance to watch Elyiss Williams next week in person. We're covering North Cobb and Camden, so I'm really excited. He's one of those guys that, like, when you see him on the field, you know instantly who that is.
Kaylee, you're going to be easy to spot. Look at him right there. I mean, nobody 6'7", 240 should move like this, should change direction like this. It's going to be a daunting task to get him on the ground. I mean, again, kind of untapped, undiscovered potential right there. I mean, look at that, Kaylee. That is a future first-round draft pick walking right there. We had the DawgNation conversation. If you just joining us right now and as part of your evening plans, one of the things I thought that was really cool is his head coach, Travis Rowland, one of the good dudes already in Georgia high school football. He said, this guy is your next first-rounder. He called him, Kaylee, the best player in America. Mic drop.
Wow.
He did. You can go back and watch. He did.
Also, just how well he moves his feet for a guy of that size. Like, that's something that you can really take away from the tape right here. Let's move on to a defensive player, someone we haven't seen as much on Mansell's Details, but certainly made a big impact in their game last week despite a loss. It's going to be Darren Ikenabog, who had 9 tackles and 4 for loss.
Yeah, Darren's, hasn't had the best senior year. He's been a little bit injured. He got a late start, but 9 tackles, 4 tackles for losses right here. Just look at, Kaylee, the thing that stands out is the length. Like, this guy's going to be joining the size and the length. I mean, one thing college coaches always covet is you can't teach that. You can teach effort, you can teach scheme, you can teach ability and technique, but you can't teach length. And length turns that 4.5 into a 4.4 or that 4.7 into a 4.6. It allows you to get to grab onto a guy and instead of just barely grazing him with your fingernails or your fingertips right there. And I think that will hunt a lot in Athens. You can see him kind of developing maybe into one of those Chaz Chambliss roles in Athens.
All right, moving on. Let's look at the 4-star wide receiver. This is Tyler J. Williams.
Tyler J.
Williams. Peanut numbers right here. 2 catches, 2 touchdowns, 97 yards.
You know, Kaylee, I'm just giddy watching this. First of all, Tyler J. Williams, great guy to talk to. He's got a great off-the-field story with his